All right, guys. We're out here today, back on the Phantom X Go-Kart. And this thing is honestly one of the wildest PEVs that I've ridden, if you could call it that. Honestly, it's not very portable because it weighs so dang much and it's so big. But it is small and it is electric, so one could make the argument. It's also somewhat dangerous to ride on real public streets, hence why I'm on residential stuff, which obviously is public, but you know, it's very close to the ground, so very hard to see over the tops of most American cars. And because of that, it's very fun. Like you're quite close to the ground, which means the center of gravity is pretty low, which means you can rip and have a ton of fun on it without feeling too top heavy. Now, the time that I spent on this so far is very limited, probably like 15 minutes total. But I have some thoughts to share already, and some of those are that yes, it is very twitchy. You can kind of see little tiny hand movements translate to a lot of turn, and that's because the ratio is pretty much exact. A lot of the time when you have a steering rack in a car, if it's manually driven, that is like mechanical, it's going to have some sort of gear ratio, like a gear on a track or a worm gear system of some sort. For this, it's a direct connection between the steering column, the bar, and the actual steering links. And while that makes it feel very connected and quick to respond, it also means that if you mess up your steering input, like a little jerk to the left or jerk to the right, or if you let go of one hand, it's pretty easy to go in a direction you weren't planning on going. But so far, I haven't had a real issue with it. The only issue I've had per se is that this leg position for me is a little bit uncomfortable. I'm about 6 feet tall and pretty large in terms of like build. So this is kind of cramming myself into this small area to be able to ride this, which on one hand, it's pretty neat how compact it is in terms of like regular go-karts, but at the same time, it's definitely a bit of a leg workout, keeping your legs like together around the steering wheel. Honestly, I didn't really plan this video out at all, so this video is just going to be me talking about the kart as I ride it. Hopefully you guys will enjoy that, but apologies if I start to ramble. In any case, the go-kart itself, you know, the Rev Phantom X, is an incredibly powerful board in the first place. And to take that and put a steering rack on it and make it so that it's even easier to just slam full throttle is a pretty crazy thing to do, because you have so much power at your fingertips here. I mean, if you recall the 0 to 20 and 0 to 30 times of this beast, something like, I think it was 1.68 and like 2.7 seconds. Pretty nutty in terms of something that accelerates, period, but is just you and the kart. On traditional go-karts, there's a lot more structure to them. A wider wheelbase, and they probably have a bit of crash protection At least the ones I've ridden have had some crash protection around the edges, some bumpers, and stuff like that. This, though, is just the board. So while you're nice and compact, you're also pretty exposed. So that may be a benefit to some people. It may be a downside. For me, I think it's somewhere in between. Mostly for me, it's just the small frame makes my legs hurt a little bit. So we're figuring that out. But, oh goodness. So far, this thing is incredibly fun. And I think I'm going to try to take it to a park nearby that has like a track around the outside, so I can sort of go around a circuit of sorts. Hopefully there won't be too many people there. I also think this would be super fun with 9-inch knobby tires on it and doing off-road stuff. So I'm going to try that out, or try to get that in before this video comes out. I don't know if I will or not. This will probably just be a one take. But yeah, this thing is pretty sick. It really feels like a finished product, as much as like the steering wheel being a little bit crooked and the size. Those are just sort of things to look over. What am I saying? The steering wheel being crooked is annoying. If you can see right now, this is driving straight pretty much. And the wheel is probably at like 15 degrees to the right. I tried for a while to adjust the linkages on the front and get them straight. This was the best I could do. So I think Rev's going to send me a new steering wheel that has adjusted like hole positions, but that's a little bit annoying. The rest of it works really well though. It feels super solid. It bolts together nicely and fits to the board nicely. There's a little bit of chassis flex from the Rev itself. Obviously, it was meant to be a skateboard, so you want a little bit of flex to the deck. But since it has a little bit of torsional softness, that is like the front truck and the rear truck can flex through the deck sort of independently of each other. That means that the kart experience is going to have some interesting resonance at certain speeds, and I haven't really gone fast enough to experience that. EV Tech Steven, if you know who that YouTuber is, he did a video on this kit already, and he talked about that a little bit, how he would feel a little bit unstable at 30 miles an hour. I think the fastest I've gone in here so far is about 25. So I haven't quite gotten up to that speed yet, but I can totally understand where he's coming from. I think, though, that it wouldn't really like wobble out like a traditional speed wobble. I think it would just feel a little bit loose, and you'd just have to power through it. But like I said, I haven't experienced that on my unit, so it could be a unit problem, it could just be a design thing, or it could be the torsional stiffness. Not really sure. But overall, I think the rigidity is fine. And the way that it's attached through these sort of binding holes is very solid. There's like no flex at all in the steering column, so that's really confidence inspiring. The seat is a little bit flexy. I kind of wish that the sides of it came up a little bit more to give it some more bolstering. And it does flex, like I said, it will squish a little bit as you go side to side. But overall, it feels pretty solid. The steering wheel feels really solid. I'm not 100% convinced on the thumb wheel being on the side. That's a little bit hard to reach when you're trying to do a turning maneuver, which means that it's hard to reach the brakes, which is something that, in my mind, you don't really want to have happen. You always want to have the brakes available. So I'd be interested in doing some mods that like add pedals on here, but there's not like a ton of space in front. So I'm not sure what that would look like off the top of my head. Either way, I end up with sitting with my feet like sort of out like this, which, you know, it's like all of the pressure going through like the outside point on these, I guess, foot pads. And it feels like there's something else that's supposed to be here. So we'll see what I can do. I might design something and attach it on there to make it more comfortable to ride. But other than that, pretty fun experience so far. Let's see if I can get on the grass and do some hard turns and see how hard it is to stay solid. This grass is pretty thick, so I don't know how it's gonna be, but oh my god, the traction. If you throttle into it at all, it just loses it. That's crazy. Kind of to be expected for like slick tires like this, but oh, it is a lot of fun. I bet dogs would hate this thing, which ironically there are some dogs at this park, so I'm just trying to steer clear of them. You really do have to use your body a lot to manage your balance if you intend on staying on all four wheels. Otherwise, if you just stay sitting upright like this and turn, you're just gonna fall over. So you really gotta lean into it, which you do on regular karts too, but since the wheelbase of this is not really that wide, you kind of have to do it a little bit more. So like for this turn, throttling up, I have to lean quite a bit to feel comfortable. Whereas on a regular go-kart, I probably wouldn't have to. Also, like I was talking about the bolstering, on a regular go-kart, you're gonna have a much taller seat back, which helps support you when you're going through those turns. So, like I said, no script on this video. I'm just rambling about different things that I find interesting. Hopefully you guys will see this and have some questions in the comments that I can answer or test. But I'm just here to show this off as an option for your Rev Phantom X or your angled deck skateboard. Because, oh goodness, it is compatible technically with angled deck skateboards like a Trampa, a LaCroix, or similar. So, also, as you can see there, I almost turned over, and putting your hand out like that is a great way to break your wrist. So if you are doing that, just be careful that you know what you're doing, or that you sort of roll into it rather than just snapping your wrist from putting your hand out. I think we're losing a good bit of light, so I'm probably gonna come back to this tomorrow. But this has been a fun little test ride, and hopefully this footage turns out great. This is my first time using the GoPro Max. So I have a Max 2 on the front right now, which I'm probably gonna sort of switch between the footage of that and my helmet cam to give you guys this video. But yeah, let's keep on riding. Man, the brakes will really slide you in grass. Now this would be a great application for ERPM limited reverse, because the low speed turning radius on this thing is not that great. So if you're stuck on a single way sidewalk or something, it's going to be pretty tough to turn around without doing a multi-point turn. So definitely something that I would look at changing, which in the full review of the Phantom X I already mentioned that I would probably change to the ERPM limited reverse, because I think it's much better than having 0 mile-an-hour brakes that slip. So this would be further reinforcement for that idea. And I think I'll definitely try that out before I finish the sort of videos that I do on this go-kart kit. We're getting a little bit more populated on the street now, which is a little bit... Ooh, that was a weird sound. It was a little bit concerning to me because I don't want to be run over. So we'll get back in before it's fully dark out. I would love to put a bull bar on this and some lights. I think that would be a really cool addition. Maybe even a light bar on the front, that would be super cool. Probably not very necessary because I can't imagine riding this thing at night, at least not in the street. Maybe off-road somewhere at night you could, but probably still be pretty sketchy, all things considered. Going 26, wow. The steering inputs at this speed are very sensitive. Going about 25. Another thing that I'm noticing is that bumps on the road affect throttle input, which is also a little bit disconcerting because I don't want to accidentally go into brakes by having my thumb vibrate, you know? And that's kind of what it feels like right now. It's not too bad, but definitely noticeable. Got about 27 right now, 28. Definitely using my legs to stabilize my steering input. And honestly, right now, I really wish I had like a rear view mirror, because it's really hard to take your eyes off the road when you have to hold your steering so precisely. Two things I think that could improve the steering on here are a damper, and I don't know how you would do it, but some kind of steering ratio I think would improve the experience on here a lot. Make it a lot easier to loosen up on the handle or the hand grips and concentrate on more of where exactly you want to go rather than just keeping it straight. All right, so we've been riding for about 3.5 miles now, and this is all I'm going to record for today. So let's go through some closing thoughts for this part of the video. Like I said, I think I'm going to ride again probably tomorrow. It'll be the same video for you guys, but right now I have some thoughts to offer after just this short amount of time. All right, so first things first. Is it fun? That's a simple one. Absolutely. It is so fun. The amount of power you got and inherent stability from, you know, not being an actual skate truck makes this an incredibly fun and zippy little beast. And honestly, for $350, if you already have the Phantom X or you already have a mountain board with a fairly rigid base, this is an awesome thing to add to your collection. And it does take a little while to like take it off and put it on your board, but you know, if you want to ride it as a go-kart for a little while, maybe it makes sense. Or if you have like an extra deck or something that you could put this on, maybe that would be a good option as well. But for the Phantom X directly, which obviously is what this was designed for, it works incredibly well and it's incredibly fun. I have a couple other points I want to cover. So first, or second, I guess, is the stability. And obviously, I've talked about this a good bit. The steering response is incredibly sensitive. If you take your hands off the wheels at any point, the chance of you crashing, I feel, is quite high, because they'll just go wherever the bumps on the road tell them to go. And it's probably not going to be where you want it to go. So keeping your hands on the wheel is key. And I think it might be a little difficult to improve that on this exact setup, but it's manageable. And some advice that Ethan gave me, the owner of Rev, is to use your legs to keep your hand position consistent. And that's what I've been doing this whole time, sort of squeezing in with my legs into my elbows to keep my hands where I want them to be. And that has worked pretty well and kept me from any sort of catastrophic incident. Now, as far as high speed goes, I've only gone about 30 and I just touched it once. So, yes, it's very sensitive, but it's also manageable and very fun. So, obviously, every kind of PEV is going to take some time to learn. And I think once you learn how to manage the stability of this thing, you're going to have a blast on it, even though it's sensitive, and even though maybe it's not the most ideal steering ratio or steering setup for everyone. Wow, this can do pretty tight turns if you're going a little bit faster. But yeah, as far as the rest of the electronics go compared to other go-karts, I don't really know a lot of other go-kart specs, but I have to imagine that this is leagues above the speed and power of most. Ooh, that didn't sound good. This is probably leagues above the speed and power of most entry-level go-karts, like the Segway ones, or 9-bot, is it? I think it's 9-bot. Because this thing can go incredibly fast and accelerate incredibly quickly. And I guarantee you none of those go-karts are going to be on 21S, aka like 96 volts. So while the voltage is not like saying that the board is more powerful than any of those go-karts, inherently the speed controller and the amps that it outputs do. So if there's anything to go by, wow, this has so much power. If there's anything to go by, it's the testing that I did in the Phantom X full review. You can check that out up in the iCard. And I think that's pretty much all I got to say for now. I will catch up with you guys again when it's light and bright out. Well, the sunny day that I talked about just previously didn't end up happening, and I didn't have time to record an additional clip or two, so I'm just going to close this out with a voiceover. I've already expressed a lot of my thoughts on this kit throughout this video, but to summarize, it's an incredibly fun kit that is really not too hard to install and transforms your skate experience into a kart experience. The kart experience is a lot of fun. It does take some learning to figure out how to do it properly, and there will be some caveats depending on what your setup is. All of my thoughts in this video were on the Rev Phantom X go-kart version, but you can put it on other decks as long as you have a way to mount it at the right angles. Keep in mind, on this setup, I have steel bushings on my rear truck, essentially locking it into a solid axle. So your mileage may vary on how hard that is to do on your own board, but I didn't have to think about any kind of speed wobbles in the back, and it was still quite sensitive even with the locked rear truck. After learning it is a ton of fun, and I'm super excited to keep riding this thing. So I'm gonna record at least 1 or 2 more videos doing some riding and potentially some off-roading with this thing. If you guys have any questions or suggestions for what to do, leave them down in the comments below, and I'll try to get to as many of them as possible. But for now, thanks so much for watching. Stay safe, keep on riding, and peace out.